Hello, guys, and welcome back. Changing the name to my YouTube channel to Daily Reminder. Um, so, welcome back. If you are a person returning to watch a video, and if you are someone new watching, welcome. And if you can hit the like and subscribe button, that'll help get this message out to other people who may need it. Super excited about this video. This one's gonna be a juicy one with a bunch of information. I love it. All right, guys, so I'm not gonna get too distracted today. I'm gonna try to make this video as short as possible with as much information as possible. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about ayahuasca. If you've seen my testimony before, which is on my channel, you can check that out as well. So just a little background. I was growing up, I didn't have any biblical knowledge. I was raised Catholic, and then I got into a bunch of stuff like New Age, which is what kind of the video is going to be about today. I got into the New Age, and I was heavily into New Age, like deep into the New Age. And a little bit about my background with the New Age. I was doing tarot readings, I was doing psychic readings, I was doing pendulum readings. I was heavily into taking ayahuasca, peyote, buffo, alvarius, and mushrooms. I was taking these substances on a once a month basis, if not once a month, maybe even more. As far as the mushrooms and the ayahuasca was involved, I was actually initiated as a shawoman to administer the medication. And if you ever been involved with these, I'm going to call them groups or societies, you start noticing that it's kind of the same people that are running the show, right? And those people that run the show, there's like a head to the runners, and then there's the people that are around serving. So not only would we administer the medication, that's what they call it, is medicine, we would also serve the group. And what does that kind of sound like? It almost sounds like a religious gathering, but they're just using different terms for what they're administering. At church, they'll administer the bread to remind you of what Jesus did in the Last Supper. And when you're doing ayahuasca, mushrooms, buffo, they're administering medicine. And then you have people around serving, right? Which some people are playing music, some people are helping people throw up. Just depending on what substance you take, there's different things and cycles that you go through while you're on that substance, right? So let's get into it a little bit. Just wanted to throw that out there. Like I said, I was initiated as a shawoman to administer the medication, and I would serve. And like I said, I was attending these ceremonies, if not once a month, more than once a month. Because what I noticed when I was taking these substances, the whole point of it was medicine, right? And it's supposed to heal you psychologically, emotionally, and in your heart, right? But what I started noticing is when I would take the medicine, I would get this high, right? I mean, you see what you see in the spirit realm, right? And we're gonna also talk about that. The access that you get to the spirit realm through this psychedelic chemical, right? You gain access to the spirit realm, And then afterwards, you kind of go like on a 3-day high where it's all about love, peace. You want your body to be clean, and you're trying to do the best that you could do for like a 3-day span. This is for me. For others, it could be a little bit longer, but eventually that fades, right? And you're stuck there. It's almost like you go into like a depression, and you go into a phase of when you're under the substance, you download so much information. It's like a download of a bunch of information where you're just like, some of it you're able to kind of digest and understand in your mind, and maybe it's able to change one or two of your perspectives, hopefully in a positive way. It could be positive, it could be negative, just depending on your experience. But because it downloads so much information into your brain, you're only able to digest a couple of things, and all of the other things, they just get lost or they just get forgotten. You're usually only able to digest like the highlighted parts of that psychedelic trip. So as I was saying, back on that 3-day high where it's like everything is love, I love you this, I love you that, and then that fades. So as I was into the new age and I was into ayahuasca, and mind you, I did this for 5 years, guys. 5 years where I was heavily into this. I was serving. I was with a group of people. We were doing it. I got to the point where I literally almost moved to Colombia to set up a fort next to the taitas in the jungle, and I was literally going to dedicate my life to running these ceremonies. That's to the point that I got to. So I was really deep and heavy into this stuff. So what I'm saying to you right now is things to make you critically think for yourself and wonder why this is what happens when you go into this trip. Okay? So again, guys, remember, I was into this 5 years. I was literally going to move to the jungle, and I was literally going to dedicate my life to this. So before you guys do ayahuasca, think about it, because just watch the whole video and then think for yourself. Don't believe what I'm saying, but go do the research for yourself. Just watch the whole video so that you can get both sides. All right, so let's talk about the ayahuasca part. Let's talk about the new age part. Ayahuasca is a medicine, psychedelic drug. It's a substance that you take. It gives you access to the spirit realm. What people see may vary. It could be light, it could be dark. What people intend for it to be is light. What a lot of people see in this realm or on their trip is usually light-based. Some may see darkness. I've known people to see darkness. I've known people that see Satan. I've known of people, actually people that were pretty close to me when I was knees deep into this. Knew a person that every time he took ayahuasca, he said he was a reincarnation of Satan, which I thought was kind of crazy because most of the people would see light, and I thought what I was seeing was light. What I thought I was doing by serving in these ceremonies was I thought I was doing God's work on this earth. So let's get into the new age. What are some principles about new age? And keep in mind the name too, new age. Okay, so it means that it's new, right? Anything in the new is something that hasn't been tested. It's something that hasn't been out for a long time. It's telling you in the name. So take all of this stuff into consideration, okay? So what are some principles about new age? Forgiving, right? People in the New Age believe that they want to forgive and that they should forgive everyone. Why? So that you can set yourself free, right? Another principle of New Age is breaking generational curses, right? Breaking generational curses, that's another principle of New Age. You're that black sheep of the family, right? Because you're here to change everything, right? What are some other principles of the New Age? Sorry, I write on napkins, guys. All of my notes are on napkins. Why? I don't know. But this is how I do it. Another principle of New Age is meditation. All right. Keeping those things in mind, forgiving generational curses, and meditation. All right. So since it's New Age, where did it come from? Where did all of this derive from? Where are we getting it from? If it's new, right? We're creating something new with the New Age. But where do all these things come from? Let's get into that now. All of these principles come from this book right here, guys. I was into the New Age. I was into ayahuasca. I was serving. I was doing all of the things up until there was a ceremony, a mushroom ceremony, where Satan manifested. And it was 5 of us. We were trying something new because what we had done is created a little group of 5 people where we were going to kind of branch off of the big group that we were originally administering with. But we were going to break off, and we wanted to change around some of the things that they were doing in the ceremony. So we created kind of a new group, and we were going to administer our medicine, which was we were going to administer peyote, we were going to administer ayahuasca, we were going to administer buffo, and we were going to administer shrooms. Different ceremonies, one psychedelic drug per ceremony, but we were going to administer all. But 5 of us broke off because we wanted to do our ceremonies in a different way. And so when that happened, when Satan manifested in one of the ceremonies, we were doing mushrooms. We had made kind of like a new blend of mushroom, and we mixed it up with a couple of other things, and we wanted to see how that was going to manifest and what was going to manifest in the spirit realm, and how we were going to tolerate that. So when Satan literally manifested in this ceremony, it was 5 of us again. It was a pretty traumatic ceremony. If you've ever been to one of these psychedelic ceremonies, you know, some of them can get heavy. It just depends on who's administering, who's there, and what demonic powers they have, and how they are, and we're going to get into that too, how they're cultivating the environment while you're in that ceremony. So when Satan manifested, it was a really traumatic ceremony for me and for a few of the other people there, except for the person who manifested as Satan, saying he was the reincarnation of Satan. He took a lot of pride out of that, and yeah, that tumbled into some other stuff. After that ceremony, because how I mentioned earlier, I thought I was serving and I thought I was doing God's work. But what I didn't understand was, in these ceremonies, they play a lot of spiritual music. And they're always talking about a God. And what I started realizing towards the end, once I made this shift, was they're always talking about a God, but they never name that God. They never name that God. And if you've ever been to a ceremony, you would understand this, because the shaman that's gonna administer the medicine that day, could be a shaman, could be a shawoman, he's telling you, you're drinking the spirit of the plant. But let's bring that down a little bit more spiritually. Let's actually really critically think about what's going on here and what we're opening up to. When you're drinking something, you're coming into agreement with whatever you're drinking because you're drinking it, you're accepting it, right? That's one thing to look at. Before the briefing, the pre-briefing that they give you at these ceremonies is they're literally telling you that you're drinking the spirit of the plant, right? You're not drinking the spirit of the creator. You're not drinking the spirit of creation. You're drinking the spirit of that plant. And what that can manifest as, it can manifest in different ways for different people, right? So we all know that there's a spirit realm, there's good and there's evil. And when you open up the spirit realm, we are spiritual beings. But just because we're spiritual beings doesn't mean we have access to the spirit realm, because on this earth, we are not spirits. We are spirits and we're inhabiting a flesh body. So technically we are not spirits at this time until we die. Once we die and we lose the flesh, then that's when we become spirits again. So once we lose our flesh, then we go back into the spirit realm, because then we've lost our shell of flesh and then we become spiritual creatures again. So just because we're living on the physical realm, which is earth, doesn't mean there's not spiritual things going on around us. There is spirits and there's demons, there's angels, and all of that is going on at the same time. And whatever we come into agreement with and from the spiritual realm is what manifests in our physical realm, guys. So let's go back a little bit. So when I said that Satan manifested at this ceremony, I kind of left a little bit traumatized, and I stopped doing these psychedelics for a little while, and I started to question things, because I remember when I started at the beginning, I remember the first ayahuasca ceremony that I ever went to. I remember leaving and I remember thinking, man, that was sorcery. I didn't even know what the word sorcery meant, but I know that that's the memory that it left with me. Even though I felt like I saw light things and I experienced light things, I still felt like it was sorcery. And I remember the last ayahuasca ceremony that I attended, I remember, to me at the time, with the knowledge that I had at that time, it was the best ceremony that I had ever experienced, because I was moving up and I was gaining more powers, I was gaining more knowledge, or at least I thought I was. Sorry if you guys can hear my son in the background, he's around here somewhere. So at that last ayahuasca ceremony, I remember thinking at the end of it, I was like, wow, I literally felt like I was at a demonic ceremony. Why? I don't know, but it was countering itself. I thought I was doing light things and working for God, but at the end of the ceremony, I was like, man, that felt like a demonic ceremony, and I couldn't understand, I couldn't put my finger on why it felt that way. So going back to what I was saying earlier, at the music that they play at these ceremonies, they're always talking about a God, but they're never identifying who that God is. They're never naming that God. So once you drink the substance that they're having you drink, and they're playing the music around you guys, which, remember guys, music is, I'm getting to my notes here. Music is mood manipulating. It can manipulate your emotions. It can manipulate your thoughts. If you have a song that that's playing and it reminds you of your ex, that can manipulate your day into thinking you miss them, into thinking this, that, or the other, and that's a domino effect of things. So music is very manipulative in the sense where it can manipulate your feelings, your mood. It can manipulate your day. So keep that in mind, guys. They're playing this music, which is manipulating the trip that you're going through. It's manipulating your feelings, your emotions, and it's chanting things in words. Sometimes it can be indigenous words, it can be in tongues. You don't understand what is being said. It's talking about a God, but they're not identifying who that God is. So when you drink this substance, you're coming into agreement with whatever God, whatever chants, whatever tongues they're talking about. Like, guys, we need to start thinking about the things that we do a little bit deeper. And this is what gets us in trouble, is that we don't think about things deeply, and we don't have any discernment because we don't know the Bible. So once that mushroom trip went bad and Satan manifested, I really started to start critically thinking. I really started asking myself, like, is what I'm doing the right thing? Is this really with God? And then a lot of you guys will know if you guys watch my testimony, which is a lot longer. I started asking myself, what am I doing? I did one more mushroom ceremony after that by myself to gain access to the spirit realm, because that's why I would do these psychedelic substances, to gain access to the spirit realm. And all you're doing when you do these things is you're gaining access to the spirit realm. You're opening things up that you don't know how to play with in the spirit realm, because right now we're meant to be flesh. We're meant to be in skin. We're not meant to be our spirit selves until we're out of this. Yeah, we do have our spirit, and our spirit can sway us in ways, but we're not meant to gain access to the spirit realm while we're in a flesh body. Otherwise, we would have access to it at all times. The only time we have access to it is when we're in prayer and when we're petitioning for things. A prayer is a petition, and I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper in a little bit. So once I had this last ceremony of mushrooms, I literally prayed. And like I said, I didn't really have a religious background growing up. It was Catholic. I didn't go to church. I didn't know the Bible. I didn't know who Jesus Christ was. I didn't know who God was. I was kind of just living off of opinions and things that I heard, because I didn't have a really spiritual background or foundation. So once I did that last mushroom ceremony, I prayed and I asked God, like, if this is of you, show me, and if it's not, then show me that too. And what the result was from that was, I remember as soon as the mushrooms hit, I remember asking myself, why did I take this? Why did I take this? Why did I take this? This was a bad idea. I shouldn't have taken this. And I had never felt like that before. Every time I took it, I knew I was going to have a good time. I was going to tap into the spirit realm. I used to get possessed by a demonic spirit while I was under the medicine. And I would run rituals and do all this stuff, and it was insane. Those are the things that I thought was doing God's work, and it really wasn't, because I was never really able to put my finger on what exactly was the energy that I was moving. I was never able to understand the tongues that I was speaking in. I was never able to understand a lot of the things that I was doing. And that's what kind of made me start thinking, like, what is really, really going on? And so when I took the mushrooms, they hit. I was just questioning, why did I do this? Why did I do this? And to the point where I almost went into a bad trip. But I sat there and I was like, no, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to really sit down and reflect on what's going on. And then the music that I would play, a lot of the indigenous music that I would play, I couldn't remember any of the words. So that told me, that triggered me, that cued me into wondering, why am I really doing this? Is this really from God? Because I didn't really get a positive answer. All it did was, I really think my prayer was answered. I really think that God was like, I don't know any of this, so I'm not going to allow you to remember it because this isn't of me. And the crazy thing was, I had never read the Bible in my entire life, and once that ceremony finished, a couple days later, I kept getting the itch and 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 the itch to read the Bible. And I was always looking for a spiritual book of law. I always wanted to know what the law was in the spirit realm. And I come to find that this was it. So it triggered me to read the Bible. And that's when I started figuring all this stuff out in the spirit realm. I gave up the New Age. I gave up the ayahuasca. I gave up the necromancy, the psychic readings, the tarot readings, the pendulums. I gave it all up. Once I read this book, it convicted me so hard that I fell on my knees in repentance. I knew inside my heart and inside my soul that I was doing wrong. I knew it. When you read truth or you hear truth, it triggers something in your heart and your soul to know it's truth. Ayahuasca would temporarily change me, or any of these psychedelic drugs would temporarily change me for a couple of days, maybe a month, maybe 2, and then I would just revert back. There was no anchor of substance that would come with that. It would just be a vicious cycle of wanting more and getting a little bit and then going back, and then it was just a vicious cycle. I was never fully healed up until I started reading this law book, and I started getting convicted by the words that I was reading in this book to change my life. This book taught me discernment. This book taught me right from wrong. This book taught me how to discern the things that come into my life. Hey, are they of God? Are they not? Are they in this book? Are they going against the words in this book? And that's what ultimately taught me discernment. I remember a bunch of spiritual gurus that were in the New Age would always talk about discernment. But I don't think that you can know discernment until you read this book from cover to cover. So now let's get into New Age. To me, is just a knockoff of the principles that are already in the Bible. Jesus Christ asks you to forgive everyone. Why? Because if you don't forgive others, he won't forgive you. The Bible talks about meditating on the Word of God so that you can keep that in your heart, so that you can discern the things that are coming in and out of your life. This world is heavily seductive, guys. There's music, there's sex, there's food, there's money. Everything around us is literally trying to sway us one way to another. It's literally trying to distract you. It's literally trying to keep you busy from the things that we're supposed to be doing. It's literally trying to keep you busy from waking up to the truth, and the Bible is the truth. And it's like the white elephant in the room. It's been there the whole time, and we literally haven't seen it. Why? Because this world is so seductive that it's trying to pull you. But now I understand why, guys. There's the light, which is God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and then there's the devil. The devil walks around, guys. He is your adversary. He is trying to sway you and pull you. Being on this realm, and as long as you have your soul, and as long as you are alive on this planet, It's literally a battle on white and black for your soul. It's a battle of souls. And the devil's going to do anything he can do and manipulate to be able to win over your soul. And it's a very smart idea to make a knockoff, the New Age, of the Bible by just twisting the truth. Just one little bit, one little lie changes the entire story. And that's all it takes, is one little lie to be twisted to get you to think, oh wow, these principles are really good. This sounds really good. But all it takes is one little lie to make it everything in that wrong. And that's all it takes to win you over. And while you're there and dedicating yourself there and distracted there, you're completely asleep to the truth. Let's get into that a little bit. So, in the Bible it says, Peter, if you want to follow, if you want to, like I said, don't believe me, do the research for yourself. Test the Spirit. Test the Spirit of God. Ask the Spirit of God for help. Test it. It's like when you guys go to these ceremonies, you feel spirits, right? Do you test that spirit? Is it a positive one? Is it a negative one? Is it a good one? Is it a bad one? Do you test the Spirit? Test the Spirit, guys. Don't believe me. Ask God. Pray. And all the little coincidences that happen in your life, they're not coincidences. Start paying attention to them. Are they things that you ask God for? Start paying attention to those little things. It's the same thing that you get from the New Age. You're gonna get it from being with Jesus Christ. It's just a little bit different. But this side, I'm gonna tell you, being with Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit is way more powerful than anything I ever experienced in the demonic realm. It supersedes by, it's just a peace that you've never felt before. When you create a relationship with the Holy of Holies, it's nothing like you've ever felt before. Okay, so before I get distracted, let's get into this. If you want to follow along, to find it in the law book, and I want to go over a little bit why the Bible is a law book. So what does Bible stand for? Basic instructions before leaving the earth. God calls us his witnesses. What are witnesses? What are these words? Where are these terms coming from? Legal legislation. They're coming from the legal world, right? So that's why it's law, because it's coming from a legalistic standpoint. Witness, a word of law. We have testimonies. When we convert, we give out our testimony. What is that word? A legal word. We decree and declare his promises that are in this book. That's what we have the authority to do. And I'm going to get into a video on authority a little bit later. Right now it's this. Who's the judge? God is. Who's the plaintiff? We are. When we pray, it's a petition from the plaintiff, which is somebody asking for something or something to be rewarded with or to be helped with. So all of these are legalistic words. That's why this is a legal book. That's why this is law. So let's get back to this. 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So this verse is saying that the devil has power. He's a roaring lion. And with that means he has a lot of deceptive things to come up, to throw at you, to sway you in ways, to manipulate you in ways, and to keep that pull of tension on you so that you're asleep to what's going on. We usually like to do things that feel good, that seem good, that taste good. that doesn't mean that it is good. That's why we need to read this book in order to understand how to discern. Okay. Let's see what else my notes have. Another thing that I want to tell you guys, if you're thinking of trying ayahuasca or whatever, it's real common to think that you're a reincarnation of God, or that you're a reincarnation of Mary, or that you're a reincarnation of Satan. A lot of people come out of these ceremonies literally thinking that's the vision that they saw. I'm a reincarnation of this. But how can you really say that if most of the time the people that say that, this is from what I've observed, the people that say that, because I've known these people, known some people, like I've known 2 or 3 people that have said these things. One, it's always usually those 3 things. They're a reincarnation of Jesus Christ, of Satan, or of Mary. What is that telling us, guys? If we're tapping in and we're getting access to the spirit realm, and we're coming up with these stories, right? We're coming up with these stories. So we're literally making up these stories, and from what I've observed is that technically validates the Bible, right? Because it's talking about Jesus Christ, and it's talking about Satan, and what's the story of the Bible? It sounds like this story, but you won't know the whole story until you read from cover to cover, right? So what I've observed from the people that say, oh, I'm a reincarnation of Jesus Christ, I've observed that those are people that have never literally read the Bible. They've never read the Bible. And the reason why I know that is because they don't know God. They don't know who he is. They don't know his characteristics. They don't know. If they haven't read the Bible, then they don't know God. So how can you say you're a reincarnation of God if you don't know that God? It just doesn't make any sense. Guys, we need to start critically thinking about the things that we say. Like, we need to get to know that God. If we're tapping into the spirit realm and these kinds of things are happening, that's one really common thing that I've seen that's an outcome of these ceremonies. Let's see. So another validation that we're battling against spiritual things on this realm, and that it's a battle for your soul. Ephesians, if you want to follow along, Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So what does that mean? That we're fighting against spirits because we can't see these things. Some wickedness you can see physically if it's being directed to you, but mainly it's the things that we can't see, things that are in the spirit realm, the things that are popping up into your head, like the little thoughts to do this, to do that. But if we don't read this book, guys, then we can't discern who that thought is coming from. Is it a download from God? Is it a download from the dark side? If we don't read this book, guys, we can't discern that. And I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I made this so that you guys could really just critically think about what you're doing. And this video is not intended to be a scolding, but it's intended to get you to think. Because these are the same exact things that I went through. And this is the same manipulation that these psychedelic drugs had me under until I realized what the truth was. And when I realized what the truth was, I fell on my knees in repentance. I knew I was wrong. And that's when my journey to healing really started. Is through God's words. Reading God's words helped me helped me realize the truth in a lot of ways, and identifying the things that I was doing wrong in my life, and how to change that. And once I had the fear of God in my heart and the conviction of his words in my heart, that's when my habits and the cycle breaking really started. When I started turning my head away from the things that I was doing wrong. Why? Because I was feeling convicted. And again, don't believe me. Do the research for yourself. Read the book for yourself. Let the book convict you. Let God into your heart. Give it an opportunity. Again, test the spirit. Test the spirit and see where it takes you. Thank you guys if you watched the video to the end. And I'll be making some videos here soon. So until next time, thank you. Love you guys and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.